There's an old saying that when you marry someone, you marry their whole family. And we all know what that means. We've got a lot more people that we deal with, and hopefully deal with them well. And I think we could maybe extrapolate a little further on that and say when you admit somebody, you admit their whole family. Because you'll often find that the family will be involved, and we will have to help guide them and direct them.
Managing challenging family situations can be a difficult part of a caregiver's job. But responding to families' needs, requests, and concerns is an important part of providing quality resident care. During this video, we will focus on methods you can use to prevent challenging family situations, things you can do to avoid problems in the future. We will also utilize scenarios and case studies to demonstrate techniques you can implement to respond to challenging family situations when they arise. Remember, the family and other responsible parties are a critically important part of the resident care team.
There's no question in my mind that the family is an unrecognized and unused resource in many cases. We need to value the family, and when I say family, I also mean close friends. And as a facility, we will find a great load of information and a great load of support as volunteers and as just emotional supports if we can build relationships with the family.
Successfully managing challenging family situations begins with prevention. Learning as much as you possibly can about your residents and families, learning about their needs and preferences, can help to prevent some of the problems you might face. Your preventative efforts actually begin before the resident ever moves into your community.
And the ideal time to begin that is before admission, when we ask them the information that we need to have to evaluate whether they're appropriate for our level of care. And the way we interact with the family and include them, the family and friends, will set the stage for the future. So before admission is important. The first few hours, the first few days, and the first few weeks also are very important. When somebody is new to the facility, they're open to change. They are often overwhelmed because they've changed their lifestyle radically. I mean, just imagine yourself going into a facility. New people, new food, new room, a lot of differences than what you had before. Maybe giving up some things, but also new opportunities too. Hard to see the opportunities though when you're overwhelmed with what you've lost.
Some researchers have suggested that when a resident moves into a new community, the resident and the family may actually go through the stages of grief originally described by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Although Dr. Kubler-Ross's model was originally applied to death and dying, many have applied these stages of grief to any significant loss one might experience. Understanding these stages of grief and loss can help you understand what your residents and families are going through.
Now, it's certainly not a loss to move into a facility, but it can feel like one because of how much you've given up in the process. And Dr. Kubler-Ross said that we went through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And I have found that our residents and their families do follow those steps pretty closely too. That at first, when they are first thinking of coming in or first moving in, there may be denial. Dad probably really doesn't need this. We could probably care for him. Honestly, we could. Of course, it's really hard on our family, and it's really tearing our family apart. And so we do need to look for something, but they're going back and forth. Or the resident says, I can care for myself. I don't need all this. There's no need for me to be here.
It's not true.
What does that mean, level of care? I mean, what? Move her into a different facility or more care or?
No, we have all kinds of stages that we can place her at.
No, wait, this isn't true. Don't listen to him. It's
Calm
not
down.
true. I'm fine.
Okay. Does this mean like more money?
They may be angry too. I'm angry at my son for placing me here. Well, sir, but you signed. Yes, I did, but he pushed me into it. I don't like that. Or anger for some other reason. And that's not unusual that human beings will go through that step in coming to actual acceptance.
Pam, I've got to tell you something. I'm extremely upset. They haven't been delivering my paper, my North County Times.
That is so not right.
I know.
I pay extra for that thing to be delivered here. That's crazy.
I know. Well, wasn't there this morning. It wasn't there yesterday.
Did you talk to the manager?
They don't listen to me.
I'm going to go down and talk to her. That is so crazy. I'm not putting up with this.
And sometimes we'll go into the bargaining process. Like the resident will say, if I'm good, maybe I can go back home and be independent. Or sometimes they think if I'm bad, maybe they'll get rid of me and I'll go back home and become independent. And the family will say things like, if I do this admission, will it make everything all better? Can you make everything all better for us? Will it come out the way we want it? I'm uncertain about the future, but I'll bargain. I'll try to do what I can to get what I need. After they work through some of the anger, they often go into a depression or a guilt kind of feeling. I've lost so much, the resident says. I've given up so much, and now what have I got? And the family says things like, I feel guilty. I feel terrible. I made this placement, and I'm not sure that Dad wanted it, but it is the best thing for him, but I feel really bad about it and feel guilty. And then finally, Dr. Kubler-Ross says we reach acceptance, and we say something like, I've made some new friends here, the resident said. This is a nice place. This is like a cruise ship. They come and they sweep the floors and they make my bed and they feed me and they take care of me. Or the family says something like, oh my gosh, I enjoyed actually visiting with Dad for the first time. We sat down and we talked and we walked out in the rose garden and he showed me some of the roses you have here that are identical to the ones he had. What a neat thing. That they finally reach acceptance. Of course, some people move to that more quickly and don't have as much transfer trauma as others, but we can help. We can see our role and know that we have a big role in helping them move through to acceptance as soon as possible. Families often have a sense of loss of control. That's often a big issue. Residents, the same. They're in a new setting, new people, things aren't the same. Loss of control is a big deal. So it's important to discuss with the family and with the resident who works there, what they do, why we do what we do. One thing I would strongly recommend, if you can, is introduce the individual and their family members to as many of your staff as you can, and reintroduce them, if you can, over and over until they feel comfortable and they know their name. And let them know that they're a valued part now of your program. Now, I can adjust my schedule for the resident. It's hard for the resident to adjust their schedule for me. Mm-hmm. They've just gone through a huge amount of adjustment, a huge amount of change in their lives. And now maybe I'm asking them to bathe at a different time than they normally do. Is that reasonable? Actually, it's not. I think we should be able to change for that. We should be able to listen to what their needs are and many times adjust to their needs rather than expecting them to adjust to ours. Find out what their normal routines were. What were their typical meals? What was their sleep-wake cycle? When did they bathe? When did they be up and about and active? And if it's different from our schedule, maybe we need to adjust our schedule a little bit. One of the big issues that sometimes gets forgotten on admission is spiritual supports. If at all possible, if they have a spiritual leader, if they have a religion, and there's someone involved with them on that level, have that person come out at admission or shortly thereafter and spend some time there. That will validate what you're doing and strengthen greatly their comfort. One thing we can do with families that I think is real important is we can provide training for them. We need to have handouts whenever possible that tell them as much as possible about our facility and how it functions and what we're doing there. But also, if we have trainings for the staff that don't include any information that isn't supposed to be shared. If it's just general training, we should ask the families to come to those too. Because when you train with someone and experience them as an equal, you trust someone, and that starts to build up the connections that we want to have with families. Now, not all families can make it. A lot of families don't even want to be there. But if they find out there's a free training and free information, they'll quite often show up just to find out what that is. And in the process, they start connecting with you and with the staff and with the facility in ways that they never thought possible. Encourage family visits. Encourage families, more than one if possible, to come out. Mealtime, of course, is always good. Helping out with activities. One big one is most people like to help. Almost all human beings I've worked with, if you say to them, please help me, they will. They'd love to. And so when families realize that you want them there as volunteers to help out, then they're not only doing something good for their relative, but they're doing something good for the whole community. And before long, they're starting to count on you and count you as one of their friends. Now, we can't be friends of the family. We can't be their best buddies. But honest to goodness, we should have a friendship with them, shouldn't we? Because that's when the communication flows more freely and we get information we wouldn't have gotten otherwise that helps us care for the resident more effectively.
There are many things you can do to help create positive interactions with the families of your residents. And believe it or not, it begins with something as simple as using their name.
One thing I always keep in mind is use their name a lot. If you use their name a lot, it helps them to feel like you really know who they are. And that's true for residents and for families. If you've ever bought a car or gotten involved in some kind of a deal, you know that the person who's probably on the other side of the table was trained to use your name over and over and over. You even get tired of hearing it after a while. But that's probably the favorite word in the language is your own name. If the staff is working with an angry family member, listen, write, share, be open to what they have to say. And if at all possible, acknowledge that they have these concerns and that their concerns are reasonable, that we got to listen to them and see what they have to say.
Mom, I think that you're not getting all your meds.
Well, what makes you think that?
Because you're reverting back to some of your old behavior. And I know it's hard for you to see it sometimes, but I totally noticed it, and Joe noticed it the other day when we were here.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm fine. I'm sure. Let me see. I can't remember. I think I had my last pill yesterday. But how often am I supposed to have them?
You get 4 different meds 3 times a day, Mom.
Oh.
I'm just not getting a good vibe from the staff here. It just seems like they're so not on top of what's going on.
Well, they're very busy.
Well, we're paying a lot of money for you to stay here and be taken care of. And you need your medication.
I know. I'm fine. I'm sure I'm fine. They know what they're doing.
Stop protecting them, Mom. I don't think they know what they're doing. Ed, I don't think my mom's getting her medications on a regular basis. I see her reverting back to her old behavior. Ed, I know you're new here. We went through the same stuff with the old management, and they promised us, and she still wasn't getting her meds. What can you do for us?
Well, what we'll do is we're going to go back and check the records, make sure all the documentation is there and proper. We will do our staff training as usual and continue to make sure your mother is getting her medication as required.
This isn't the first time that I've complained. You're a new guy on board. The other people, it was the same thing. I really hope that you can do some changes for me because we're really not happy with this.
Active listening is a two-way street. Communication is always a two-way street. So active listening is listening to what the person has to say, and then when there's a reasonable pause, you restate what they just said, and you show that you're interested in having them correct you if it's not quite what they meant. One aspect of that is being as honest as we can be. What can we do? What can't we do? What does a family want? I don't know. I have to ask. What is it you're looking for? What are you expecting? And let them tell you. Let them tell you what they expect, what their desires are, what they're hoping for. I can't always give them everything. I sometimes have to set limits and say, I can't do that, or legally I can't do that, or because of the regulations we can't do that. But at least they know I'm thinking about it and that I cared.
I can't have these monthly bills from an ambulance company for her going to the hospital for a simple emergency. I don't want you calling 911. Please call me first.
And don't take me to that hospital. That's a terrible place. The care is terrible. I don't want to go.
Mom,
Please,
calm down.
Don't let them take me there. It's a terrible hospital. They
Calm
left me all
down.
by myself.
Can't you just not call them for like 10 minutes? Just let me come over and assess the situation, see what's up with her.
I want my daughter with me. I don't want to go to that place by myself.
I understand. We will do everything in our power to make sure you are contacted right away, but we must contact 911 as our first call.
When you have someone who is demanding a lot, or verbally aggressive to you, or even hostile, quite often that person is feeling out of control, like they're inadequate maybe, like they don't know what they're doing, and so they're expecting you to fix it or do something about it. They may have low self-esteem. So what can we do for somebody like that? Well, we need to be firm, but fair. We need to remain calm and caring. We need to somehow show them we're empathetic to what they're doing. Sometimes people just need a shoulder to cry on, and sometimes that's what we have to be, even though it's not traditionally clinical or it's not necessarily in the licensing regulations. We have to be able to set limits and say this is how much we can do and how much we can't do. We have to assert ourselves without being aggressive and say this is the way it has to be right now. It may not always have to be that way, and I want to look and see what we can do. But right now, these are the limits. This is what I can and can't do, and this is what I'm asking of you. Empathy, in my mind, is when you care for the other person's viewpoint and you value what they have to say, and you can kind of identify where they're at. You can kind of feel like you're in their shoes and say, I see how difficult this is. I feel how this hurts you. And I don't like it either. I want to know, and I want to try to figure out with you what we can do about it. What can we do to make this thing change, to adjust this so that it works? Ideally, if you can have family council meetings, which meet regularly and have leadership there from the facility, and actually talk with family members about what their concerns are and their interests are, that can help to diffuse possible problems and family and build family support. You can also have a family support group where families get together with a staff person or two and share with each other some of their experiences and their ideas and their thoughts. That can be a very powerful support, so that the families not only have their relative in your facility, but they also feel connected to the other families in your facility, anybody who's willing to show up and take part in it.
The support you provide for the families of your residents is so important. Rather than dreading family interactions, look for ways to make those interactions as positive as possible. Should a serious situation ever arise, be sure to refer the family member immediately to your supervisor, executive director, or administrator. And always, of course, document all family interactions.
Sometimes family members feel that they are unnecessary now because the person's getting the care that they need. Sometimes family members feel that this new facility has sort of taken over dad or mom's life. Now dad and mom don't want to come home on the holidays because they've got all their friends over there, and they can feel sort of left out and not important. We don't want that to happen, do we? We want the family to feel included as much as possible in everything that we're doing and have a good relationship with them.